Hey everybody, so just going live here to give you some updates and also do a sermon recap, and hopefully you're tuning in on the weekends, participating. Hopefully you're doing like a watch party. You can do that on Facebook where you can basically invite all your friends to join you in watching online, and so you can do that 9, 11, and 4. If you're a Facebook watcher, and then if not, you can do online watching through our website, and then I think the 9 a.m. this weekend we'll have YouTube, and then we're working on getting YouTube for all of those. And so, man, what a crazy time. Like it's insane. People are in Walmart with bags over their heads and going to gas stations with bandanas wrapped around their face, and you can't tell who's just getting gas and who's about to mug you. And so that's fun. And so, but anyways, I just, for our Pathway people, bottom line is, the governor extended the kind of the stay-at-home stuff through May 4th. We're going to comply with that. Our county, I think, is still on a stay-at-home through April 9th. So if there's any changes, I don't suspect there to be any changes until May. I want to say this, though, and I don't know. I want to be a voice of calm and reason for my Pathway people out there. I know the media is making it sound like these coronavirus cases are going off the charts, but you need to understand just a couple of facts. One is, the U.S. has more cases than any other country, but you need to understand we've also done more testing. And now they have a test that can give a result within 15 minutes. And so you just need to understand that the numbers are going up because now we're testing more and more and more and more and more. And so I understand every night you're watching the news and there's more cases, and it's a pandemic, and we do want to take it serious. It is serious, okay? It is serious. But I just, again, want you to understand that, we have tens of thousands of people every year that do die from the flu. The numbers for corona so far aren't close to that, although the predictions are saying they could get that high. But I just want you to understand that I think again, that the numbers are going to go up for another week or two because they're doing so much testing. I really believe that, the Lord spoke to me. I really believe this, that I think there's going to be a shift, and I shared this in the message, and I would encourage you to go watch that. But I believe there's going to be a shift around Passover, which I think is prophetic. I think it's divine. I think God's speaking. So I think there's going to be a shift around Passover. Not everything obviously won't go back to normal, and there'll be a new norm. I don't know that we'll ever go back to normal. There'll be a new norm. And I'm not saying that they're going to open the economy after Easter or anything like that. I think it will be May before. I think they'll go in phases and start restarting the economy, hopefully in May. It's just how I feel. But I did feel like the Lord really spoke to me that there'd be a shift at Passover that I'm going to say is divine, and also that part of this coronavirus has helped refocus some of the church, and beyond that, I think it will bring in a revival that will be marked by healing. I think I'm expecting really to see a move of God's Spirit, because so many people are tuned in, praying, seeking God. Every time that happens in a nation, God just responds. And so, it's unfortunate, but sometimes the only way we'll really press into God is if we're facing adversity, or if we're scared half to death. And so, I just see some benefits, which is really what I talked about in the message that I'll jump to in just a second. But let me say this also, for my Pathway people, I want to encourage you. To stay connected with your church. I want if you're in a life group, I want every life group meeting on Zoom somehow. I want every life group leader connecting with every person in their life group. I want people in the life group connecting with each other. Is very, very, very important. Praying together. So I want you to stay connected. Also, if you need help, we have a banner at the top of our website. I think they're putting that banner on the app as well. But if you will let us know you need help, whatever that may be, we would love to help you. The ministry of the church is continuing. It just looks different. We're doing all the same stuff. In fact, we may be doing more stuff than we've ever done as far as ministry and content and availability and streaming and lives and Instagrams and Facebooks and all that kind of stuff, right? So through social media, through all of our channels, we're trying to stay connected and give some positive content. So I want you to make sure that you engage with that. And also, we're working on something for the whole week leading up to Easter. We're calling it Passion Week. But for Passion Week, we're working on content every day just to keep us focused on Jesus, but also keep us inspired, keep us full of faith, keep us trusting. And so we're working on content. We'll be rolling that out, and we'll let you know about that as well. So stay connected, and if you need us, reach out. There's a lot of good going on, and this is a great time for the church to be the church, which is what really I talked about in the message. And I'm not going to preach the message. You got to go back and listen to it. I think it's like 35 minutes, and 35 minutes that'll change your life, okay? Because I think in the midst of all the crazy, the TP wars and trying to find bottles of water and, shelter in place, all the crazy, I actually believe, I do believe, that the storm, and this is what I talked about, I called it storm potential, and I actually believe that while normally when we talk about storm potential, we're talking about the potential of a day for storms, the likelihood of storms, and the possible severity of the storms. I actually think there's potential in the storm, there's an upside, there's a positive. And so for me, I wanted to bring a message that I felt like God really stirred in my heart to say, what is the positive that we can find in the storm? What are the good things about the storm? What's happening through this storm that's actually good for us? Whether we like it or not, it's still good for us, like our broccoli, our cauliflower. I'm not a cauliflower person unless it's deep fried with buffalo sauce. So just side note, if you want to fry your cauliflower and then kind of toss it in some buffalo sauce, it's great, great. I don't know if it counts as a vegetable anymore, but it will set you free. But anyways, but I want to recap this, but I want to talk about the potential and the upside of storms. And so just 4 points, and we used this story in Acts 27 of Paul when he is actually on a ship headed to Rome. They encounter a storm, and they're blown off course, and kind of the caveat there is I believe they were blown on course. And this is what I feel like God's speaking to me. I think the storm for some of us has blown us on course and not off course, especially for the church. I think we've gotten more focused on meeting people and meeting their needs exactly where they're at. So I think in some ways it's blown us on course, and especially on course for revival and for some things that God wants to do. It's what I really believe God's speaking to my heart. So I think the storm's blown us off course. But in the text, it blew them off course. I think the storm's blown us on course. In the text, it technically blew them off course, but they ended up in Malta, and there was a revival of healing that broke out there. People were saved. It was incredible. So I think the storm has good potential. 4 things that I think potentially are good about this storm, so I'll give them to you. Number 1 is I think storms remove idols. When you look at this text in Acts 27, the first thing they did is threw the cargo overboard. In other words, that's what they valued, right? When you look at our culture, what COVID did, the first thing it did is it shut down sports idols, right? No NBA, no March Madness, no Masters, no Olympics. It just shut down sports idols, entertainment idols. They're not out there entertaining. And then, it hit us in the Dow, if you will, and it really hit the money idols. And I think that's good. I think sometimes we value the wrong things, and we live in a culture, if you will, that values the wrong things. And I did a series called Counterculture, where I was talking about in our culture, it tells us to value these things, to look to these things, to focus on these things, but that is contrary to God's Spirit. That's contrary to God's Word. So it kind of knocked the value. The whole reason they're sailing around is this cargo, and they threw it overboard because what they valued couldn't save them. And sometimes we get in a place where we realize some of the things we were valuing, they're really not that valuable in a storm, So it removed idols. It also, the boat was going to be lost. That's what they were depending on. I think when you talk about when you talk about idols in our lives, if the question is, what do I value and what do I trust in? What do I value and what do I trust in? And this is a great time to go back and say, I value God. Worship is expression of worship. So I value God, and I'm going to trust in God, not my boat, not my cargo. So I think storms remove idols, because ultimately God wants to bring us back to completely and solely trusting on Him. So I think that's one good thing. It removes our idols. Second thing is, I think that it reveals God. Storms reveal God. I can't think of a storm in the Bible where God didn't show up. Either Jesus was walking on the water, He was rebuking the wind. For Job, who had an incredible storm, God speaks to him out of the storm and says, Job, let me tell you some things, and really reveals Himself. And so what we see throughout all the storms is God shows up. Here's a good thing about storms. If you're in a storm, God is there too. And that's you find it all through the Bible. If you're in a storm, He said, when you pass through the waters, Isaiah said, I'll be with you. And so I think what's great in the text in Acts 27 is that God reveals He expounds, if you will, on His purpose and plan in Paul going to Rome. Paul had wanted to preach in Rome. It was in the storm that God said, you must go to Rome. But in the storm in the boat, an angel shows up and said, you must stand before Caesar. And this is what I think is so good about God. In storms, things may seem unclear, but they are not uncertain. The certainty of God's love, the certainty of God's purpose, the certainty of God's plan, the certainty of what God is trying to do, the certainty of God's calling on your life. There is certainty when there is when things aren't clear. So even though things may not be clear, let me explain something. Things are certain. God is in the mix, and He knows exactly He knows the plans that He has for you, and they don't change in a storm. In fact, sometimes in a storm, they become more certain. Are you with me? So it reveals God, then it renews. I think storms renew our trust, because storms really kind of expose where our faith is at. Storms can show us that we're full of faith, or storms can show us that we're lacking in faith. Either way, it's good for us to know, because faith is a theory until you hit a storm, and then you find out where it is. And it's a theory until you practice it. And so I think storms expose our faith. And I love this text because in verse 20, now Luke is writing the book of Acts, and he is journeying with Paul. He's on the trip with Paul, so he's on the boat. And he writes, we had lost all hope. I think there are a lot of people today, maybe, I feel like we've lost all hope. We're looking for hope, but I love the swing in, they're like, there's no reason to hope. But then God shows up in the storm, right? God speaks, the angel speaks. Verse 25, Paul makes this declaration in the midst of what is unclear or not clear, but it has become more certain. Paul makes this statement, I believe God. 3 words, I believe God. What a great declaration, right? What a great place, bottom line, to come through in the midst of the chaos, in the midst of everything that's going on. It's unclear, but it's not uncertain. I believe God. I believe God. I think that's one of the great things about storms is when the idols are gone and the boat is gone, who are we going to believe? Who are we going to trust in? Paul said it this way, I believe God. Maybe that's where you need to be today. I believe God. Can you just say that? Wherever your storm is, whether it's COVID, whether it's been laid off, unemployed, family situation, kids, marriage, I don't know. I believe God, right? And then the fourth thing about storms is it ramps up opportunities. And we said this, I kind of contrasted Paul and Jonah. And we said Jonah brought a storm to people, but Paul brought people through a storm. I think in a storm, especially for the church, we have a great opportunity. We should be peaceful. Why? Because things are certain. They may not be clear, but they're certain. We should be peaceful. Why? We believe God. We trust God. It will be as God said. So there's an opportunity for the church to be the church in storms. There's an opportunity to love our neighbors, to reach out, right? To pray for others, to go to the store for others, to share some TP, which like I hope, listen, I'm buying stock, toilet paper, man, that's incredible. But anyways, there's a great opportunity, I think, in the storm. And we can be the people running around like, rocking it out, rocking it out, rocking it out. Or we can be the people saying, you know what, we believe God. It's going to be as God said. And we're not going to be the people bringing storms to people. We're going to be the people that help people through the storms. I hope that's who you'll be. That's who we're trying to be. And so I hope you'll check out the whole message. It should be on YouTube or the app or our website. So I hope you'll check it out. I think it will encourage you. I can't wait to share what I'm speaking this weekend, because I'm going to talk about weatherproofing your life. I'm going to talk about weatherproofing your life. And I'm going to talk about what we learn from storms and how it adjusts how we live, because there may be another storm. In fact, there will be another storm. I don't say that disparagingly. I say that because we can prepare for the storms ahead when we learn what we've learned from being in this storm. And so I think it's going to be an incredibly encouraging message of hope for you. I hope you'll join me. I'm glad you tuned in today. I miss everybody. I love you. I'm praying for you. I can't wait to see you this weekend or the next time, whether it's through video or however. Anyways, love you, pray for you. If you need help, let us know. God bless you. I still think the best is ahead. So we'll see you soon.